one of the things, and maybe I'd like to bounce a couple of these thoughts off of you and how your group could help us maybe educate the general public, but is we talk to this administration, and I'm talking about we as mayors and on sort of a national level, and I've sort of been one of the leaders in that area, is how do we, looking at the stimulus package, for instance, and the dollars that are rolling out to the state of Iowa and the other 49 states, and how do we get dollars not just to public projects, but to actually help people, if nothing else, as demonstrations in their own residences, in their own homes? Because often when you look at people's energy bills, and they have an interest in lowering it, but they look at the cost of actually getting there, and they say, wow, you know, this isn't a $2,000 investment, and certainly it's helpful to get those credits and a little bit of incentive from Mid-American Energy, who's our local franchisee, for power. But and they can make some deals, but that doesn't get them to a savings level that lowers their bill enough to offset the cost of doing it. So we have decided that we're going to take a model that I've worked with Architecture 2030 on, and roll it out initially in Des Moines, and maybe it'll be a model for the rest of the country. But and we're working now on how people qualify for it. But we're going to take 25% of our energy efficiency and conservation block grant dollars and put them into a leveraging buy-down program where people can actually apply. We'll go out and we'll rate their homes, and we'll give them a whole list of stuff that could be done with potential prices attached to it. And then if they feel it's an advantage, repackage their whole loan. So in other words, if they have a 5% loan or a 6% loan, we'll buy down an interest rate point.
Yes, and I'm familiar with the Architecture 2030. I love what they're doing, and I think it's needed. The plan that you have, and I've heard tell, and I think your description even helped me better understand it. Our thing is that sustainability works, and it's a long-term payback. These things, you can take the low-hanging fruit, save the money, and make it work. However, those of us that feel this is an issue now, and we don't want to wait for the 10-year payback, and people can't always see that it will pay them back, and therefore they're willing to take really what it is a long-term cost, because you're paying extra every month a little bit because you don't want to, or you haven't found the means to get that initial investment.
This particular plan would make an immediate change in everything.
That's going to take the people who say, well, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to. I see the long-term savings even, because you can educate people, but if they say, well, I can't afford it, and I'm not going to do it, and I understand the savings, we need those people who have the interest to get that initial buy-in, because the more models we see, the more success stories we have, Iowans and other people across America will adopt it, but they need to see it. You know, Missouri is the show me state, but I think Americans are show me people. If they see it happen, the switch flips, and they're just like, oh, okay, I get it, and I'll do it.
Let's talk a little bit about also urban ambassadors. Now, the individual needs to have some interchange with you. You've got a website. Talk to us about exactly what that website is, and we'll put it up on the screen so everybody can see it as well. But also, what information is available on the website?
www.urbanambassadors.org. And it is ORG. And so when you go there, there's going to be some of our recent projects, because we do believe that we need to support and provide environments for people. We call it planting the seeds. So we see individuals as seeds, and our projects are kind of tilling the soil, getting people involved in groups and environments that support them in continuing to make efforts in sustainability. So you'll see a few highlights of our projects, but you go right into the steps of sustainability on the left-hand side, and you can go through each of the steps. Each page has information, a video, an action step that we ask people to take, and then resources that they can click on that will help them move forward in that area. So we really want to inspire action, give direction to that action, and then support people in being successful in completing those action steps. And really, we put the steps in order for a purpose, but some people are in different unique situations. You can jump back and forth you can decide to go carbon neutral before you do anything else. But I'd recommend at least considering how we've laid it out, because we've taken some time and consideration of why we ask people to do certain things, and there's a payback in doing it in that order. And programs like the ones that you're discussing, the Architecture 2030 buyback in Des Moines, would be fantastic because it'll help people jumpstart that whole process.
It's been a fun process to work through with Ed Masria, because he and I have been discussing for a really long time. He certainly understands the architectural side of it, but I've always talked to him about, well, practically, how in the world do we ever get somebody there? There's got to be some way to move them from thinking about it to action, and we've got to provide it. And so this is sort of an evolution of some of those discussions, not just with me, but with others. But you have a couple of projects that you're working on now. What are you thinking about in the future?
Well, I'll kind of do a quick run through. I was fortunate enough, I biked down the coast 750 miles, 3 weeks, with a great group in California, video blog the whole thing. We're educating people in the schools, using a great curriculum, just doing inspiring things, working with cities and colleges as well as schools. Then we did the Drake University. We've planned a whole sustainable spring break where they zero waste, carbon neutral, flew out to Catalina Island, did service projects, created their own project, brought it back to Des Moines. And that's going to happen every year now, and we're sharing it with all the colleges. Curriculum.
That's terrific. Adam, thank you so much for being on City Spotlight.
Thank you.
That wraps up this edition of City Spotlight. I want to thank Culture Inc. and Urban Ambassadors for participating in our show today. And look on the screen, and you'll see times for reruns to see this show yet again. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'm Mayor Frank Cownie.